Hi guys, I hope you are doing well. So this is part 14 of SQL Server series. In this particular session, we will be discuss about SQL entity relationship diagram. So guys, as we discuss about the constraint in SQL Server, right? So whenever you are going to design a database, so you require a constraint, right? So that constraint we have already covered in this particular series. So here you can see you can focus on the primary and composite key, foreign key constraint, okay, and how we can utilize the cascade when you are designing the foreign key and all. And similarly, the other constraint like not null, check, default, and unique composite key. Okay, so I will recommend to watch these particular video, okay, to understand the constraint in detail. Then you can easily design the ERD diagram. So guys, first of all, let me tell you what is the goal of this particular video. So you can see here, I will design this particular ERD diagram, right, based on the MySQL queries. Okay. So in this particular session, we will be design n number of table, around 8 to 10 tables, and we will be use all the constraint which we have covered in the last session. All right. So guys, I have opened MySQL workbench, right? So first of all, I want to create a database, right? The database name is FinanceDB. Okay, so let me create this database and let me select this database. Okay, so the database has been created. Now let me refresh this particular portion. So here you will notice we have created the FinanceDB and we have selected the FinanceDB as a current database. All right. Now guys, the very first table I want to create for the companies. Okay. So here you can see I have defined the company code, which is varchar, and this is primary key, right? Another column name is company name. This is also varchar and which is not null and unique. Your company name should be unique. And this is the headquarter, which is text not null. Okay. And the phone is a varchar. And the established date is a simple date. And here the total asset column is the decimal. Okay. And the default value is this. And the last column, which is created at, I have created this particular column. So for an example, if you are going to insert any record for the companies, right? So I will be capture the timestamp. Okay. And the by default, the timestamp is current timestamp. Okay. So this is the very straightforward table we need to create. So simple, I can select this statement and I can run. So here I have created the table companies, right? Very straightforward. And similarly, let me create the table for the branches. So here guys, what I am doing, the same thing, right? The branch code for the varchar company code. Okay, so you can see the company code I am capturing here as well. And here also I am going to define the branch name, address, phone, manager name, opening hours by default is a 9 a.m. and the closing hours, which is 5 p.m. and the created ad, again, this is the default timestamp I am using. And now the very interesting part here, I am going to define the foreign key constraint, right? So foreign key constraint for which column? Company code column. Okay, that will references, right, another table which is company and the primary column which is company code. Okay, so this part you understood, right? And here I am going to define the delete cascade. So here what happened, I cannot define any other company, right, for the branches which is not available in the company. Okay, so that's why I have created the foreign key constraint. And here I am going to define on delete cascade, right, which we have explained in the last sessions. So using the delete cascade, right, what will happen if I am going to delete any company, right, from this particular table? So all the corresponding row against the branch also will be deleted automatically. All right. And here I am going to define the index on the company code. Okay. So this is basically for the speed up the query. Okay. That filter, or maybe you are going to join based on the company code. Okay. So that will be, increase the speed of the execution when you are utilizing the company code column. Okay. Now let me create this. Interesting. So guys, here I have created the companies table and the branch table. Now let's create a ERD diagram based on these two tables, right? So here your current database is a finance DB. You can choose the database here and you can click on the reverse engineer. Okay, you can press either Control R, or if you are using a Mac, then you can use the Command R, right? So here, once you click on the reverse engineer, so this particular window will be populated. And here you can find out your stored connection name and your host name and your username. So no need to do anything here. Simple click on continue. Okay. And here you can see we have connected with the DBMS, right? I can retrieve the schema list from the database and so on, right? So simple, you can click on continue. And here you can see all the database listed here. So right now I am working on the finance DB. So simple, just select on it and click on continue and simple execute it. Okay. So here you will notice this is my very first table, which is companies, and this is the branch table. So when you click on any particular table, right? So you will notice it is highlighting the corresponding column. Similarly in the branch as well. Okay. So in the yellow color, you can see the branch code, right, is a primary key. And in the companies also in the yellow color, you can see company code is a primary key, right? And in the branch, right, in this particular red icon, so company code, right, is a foreign key constraint, okay, which is going to navigate the company code in another column, and this column should be the primary key. Okay, so this is the basic rule when you are going to design the foreign key constraint. So right now I have involved only the two tables. Now let me create some more tables and then we'll see how we can design this particular ERD diagram once again. Now guys, I want to create the table for the employees. So here I am going to create an employee table, employee ID, again primary key, branch code, first name, last name of our employee, email, this is unique and not null, phone, these are the optional field, let's say phone, and the department is the optional field. So phone is a varchar, position is also a varchar, it is not null, and your salary is a decimal, not null here, and the hire date cannot be a null, and the data type of this particular column is a date, and the department is a varchar, and this is an optional, we can leave it as a null if you want, and the created add. And now here again what I am doing, I am going to set this column as a foreign key constraint that will be references another table, okay, of primary key column of the table. So in the branches, branch code is a primary key column, right? And again here I am going to utilize on delete cascade. So if any branch I will be delete from the branches, all the corresponding employee of that particular branch will be wipe out. And here I am going to create an index on two column, so branch code and email. Okay, so if you are utilizing these two columns for joining the data set or maybe filter the data set or maybe some other operation, so your query execution will be fast. All right. So now let me execute for the employee, and here once I refresh, so you will notice, so I have created the three tables now. Interesting. And now let me create a table for the account types. So guys, here I have created the account types. This is a varchar, name is a varchar, not null, and the unique. Every account name should be a unique. This is the description, minimum balance, okay, decimal, and the default is 0. Interest rate, this is the default is also 0, and allowed overdraft, right? So, and here I am going to define a column which is Boolean, and it can capture either true and false, but the default value I am going to set as a false. Interesting. So now I have created the account types table as well. So here you can see. All right. Now guys, another table I am going to create for the transaction categories. Okay. So here look at this. This is the very interesting table. So here I want to capture the transaction categories, right? So first of all, I want the category code, which is primary key. Category name is also a varchar, and this is not null and the unique. Now I want to capture the description as a text. Okay. And here I want to capture the category type. Okay. And the category type I am going to define with the help of enum. So guys, enum is nothing. This is the enumeration. Okay. So basically using the enumeration, right, we can select only the value which I am going to define here. So let me define the value first, then I'll explain what is the meaning of enum here. So first of all, I am saying this is the income. Okay. And the next value is expense. and the transfer and the investment. Okay, and it cannot be not null. So are you understanding what is the meaning of it? So here enum means enumeration, right? So what will happen using the enumeration, right? So user will be restrict. User can select only the income, expense, transfer and investment. If you will define any other category type, right, apart from this, so your table will not accept that value, because I have defined the predefined list here. Okay, from this list you can choose any particular category type, but other than this you cannot select or choose any category from the user. Interesting. So it will be prevent invalid data entry. Okay, and remember one thing, whenever you are using enum, right, so internally it is going to assign a integer value against these string value. So for an example, it is going to assign 1 for income, right? 2 for expense, 3 for transfer and 4 for investment. Okay. But based on their position value, it is going to indicate these value. Okay. So if you are calling, let's say expense, so internally it is going to hit as a 2 or maybe 3 or maybe 4. Okay. So I hope you understood this. So using enum, you cannot enter any other value apart from this list. Interesting. So here, let me execute this particular table. Okay. Now I have created the transaction categories as well. So you can see, right? Transaction categories. Now let me create the table for the customers. All right. So guys, here again, the customer table, primary as a customer ID, relationship manager, first name, last name and email and phone and address and date of birth of a customer. I want to capture the ID number, credit score, registration date and created ad. And here what I am doing, I am going to define here the multiple constraints. So first of all, the primary key I have defined, not null I have defined, unique I have defined, and the default also I have defined. And now I want to define the foreign key constraint based on the relationship manager ID. Okay, that will be references employee, okay, from the employee table, and the column name is employee ID, which is primary key column. Okay. So guys, here I am using on delete set null. So are you understanding what is the meaning of it? Okay. So for an example, if you will remove, right, the employee, okay, for an example, this employee, right, still, right, your customer will survive. Okay. So automatically against the relationship manager, okay, against the customer, that information set as a null. Okay. So whenever you will be delete any employee, okay, automatically your relationship manager ID would be set as a null. Interesting. And here I am going to create the indexing. And apart from this, I am going to use here the check constraint where and your credit score must between greater than equal to 0 and less than equal to 850. Now let me execute this table. And here also you will notice we have created now 6 table, right? Let me create some more table as well. Okay. So guys, here I am going to design a finance DB, right? So in the finance DB, right, lot of information or tables are required. And now I want to create the accounts table. Okay. So in the account table, I want to capture the account number, customer ID, account type code, the balance, opening date. Again, the status I am using with the help of enum. And look at this. Here I am saying these are the status only you can use it. And the default I am going to provide the active. Okay. So by default, the status of an account, right, would be active. And this is the overdraft, which is default is 0. And again, I have created the timestamp. This is the foreign key constraint, right, which is referencing to the customer table and the customer ID, right? Only those customer I can define in the account table which are available in the customer table. Okay. And again, on delete cascade, which means if I will be delete any customer, right, automatically that customer will also delete it from the account table. And here the foreign key constraint, again, the same thing I am doing based on the account type code. I am going to redirect the table name as account type, and this is my primary key column. And here I am utilizing the indexing on customer ID and account type code. Okay. Now let me execute the account tables. Okay, it is run successfully. And now let me create a transaction tables, right? Okay, guys. So in the transaction also, I am going to capture the transaction reference, account number, category code. And here I'm going to capture the transaction type. Either you can capture debit and credit, and you cannot leave this particular column as a null. So amount is a not null, description. So these are the transaction date of a transaction, a returning balance, created at, and guys, here I am going to create a foreign key constraint based on the account number. It is going to reference the account table and the account number. Okay, only whatever the account number are available here, only those account number I can utilize in terms of the transactions. And again, on delete cascade, I am going to define another foreign key constraint based on the category code. And this is also targeting the transaction categories table against the category code, which is primary key column. These are the index. And here I am going to define the check constraint. Your amount should be positive. Now let me execute this. Interesting. And now let me create a table for the, let's say, loans. Okay. So guys, in the loans table also, I will be capture a lot of details about the loan number, customer ID, loan type. Okay, again ENUM, which is enumeration, and I can select only these loan type, which is personal, home, car, business, and education, and it should be not null. Primary amount, not null. Interest rate, not null. Term month, not null. Monthly payment also not null. Start date, end date also not null, because these are the very mandatory column. And status also, again I am using enumeration once again, and your status can be active, paid off, defaulted, pending. By default is pending. Outstanding balance, timestamp, foreign key, which is going to target the customer ID, okay, and which is referencing to the customer table and the customer ID primary key column on delete cascade. These are the indexes. And here I am going to define three constraint, which is using the check. Principal amount should be positive, interest rate either 0 and positive, and your term month is greater than 0. Okay, now let me execute this. So guys, in terms of the finance DB, right, we have created account, account types, branches, companies, customer, employee, loans, transaction category, and the transactions. And now we can create another table, which is cards tables. Okay, so I can capture the information about the cards. All right. So guys, this is the last table for the finance DB, and here I have created the cards. I want the card ID is a primary key column. Customer ID is a not null. Linked account number also varchar, and it should be not null. Card number marks not null. Credit type either debit, credit, or prepaid, and it is also not null. Issue date, the data type is date and default would be current date. Expiry date is not null. Credit limit decimal and the default would be 0. Again, I am going to capture the status, which is active or maybe blocked, expired, or cancelled. By default, your status will be active of your cards. I am writing here the PIN, which is varchar created at, and here I am going to create a multiple constraint. So foreign key based on the customer ID and the customer tables. Foreign key again for the linked account number. Okay, this is going to target the account tables against the account number on delete cascade. Okay, unique key based on the linked account number. Okay, this has to be unique, right? So your linked account number cannot be duplicate. Index on the customer ID and the customer number masked, and I am going to utilize the constraint, right, which is check, and your expiry date should also greater than issue date. Okay, so your expiry date cannot be less than against the issue date. Okay, so now let me execute the last table. So guys, here you will notice we have created the multiple table. Okay, and now I'm not going to insert the data. Okay, so I will be insert the data later and then I'll show you. Now I want to create the ERD diagram based on this. Okay, so simple, you can go to the database as I just mentioned. Simple, click on the reverse engineer, and here click on continue. You can choose your database. and again continue. And here you can see we have selected the 10 total objects. Okay. So in some cases, if you don't want to select any particular table, right? So simple, you can exclude here, right? Just like this. Okay. But as of now, let's say I want all the tables here. Okay. So simple, click on execute, and here we go. So guys, we have created this particular finance DB. Okay. So you can see how the tables are associated with each other. Okay. So this is the layout of your database, right? Now let me arrange this. So guys, here you can see this, right? So guys, if you are going to join any project, right, based on the SQL, or if you are working as a data analysis or maybe data science, or if you are getting a chance to work on SQL, right? So if you are aware about the ERD diagram in details, right? So you can easily extract the data, you can easily transform the data. Interesting. So here you will notice, right? So let's say this transaction table, right, is associated with two different tables. First of all, the transaction categories and the account. Okay. Similarly, look at this customer table, right? This customer tables are associated with four tables. Account table, okay, based on the customer ID, right? You can see here. So customer ID is going to refer this relationship manager ID. Similarly, you can see the loan, right? Loan also. And this is also the cards, right? You can see, right? And similarly for the loan table is associated with customer, employee table is associated with branch, and the company table also associated with branch. Cards table is associated with customer and the account number. Okay. And this is the account type. Okay. So this is the very easy. Okay. And here we are utilizing some relationship one to one to many, and many to one. Okay. So when a single table is associated only with one table, okay, and some tables are associated with multiple tables, okay. So these are the basic relationship you need to keep in mind. So try to create the ERD diagram based on this query, or you can, tweak the column, or you can, design similarly for another database. You can try for the sales DB as well, right? So you can supply where 5 to 6 table. You can think whatever the column you want, and based on that, you can create the ERD diagram. So guys, once you create this diagram, or once you create this ERD diagram, which means you are very strong in terms of understanding the constraint of the SQL server. Okay. So guys, now what I will do, I will be insert the data in all these tables, and we will be perform lot of complex query based on these tables. Although we will be start from the joins. Okay. Then we will be understand that particular part in next session. Okay. So for this session, please try to create these tables to understand the ERD diagram. And in case if you found any challenge or in terms of understanding the ERD diagram or creating the ERD diagram, please let me know in the comment box. All right. And for now, thanks for watching and have a great day.